Thank you everybody who remembered me on my birthday. My favorite part is seeing all the posts and messages that I get on my wall. For my belated birthday, I actually have a gift for all of you. And that is something rare nowadays, which is hope. So you may have seen in the news that Trump recently gave a speech about the integrity of our voting system and how secure and reliable it is. And he actually confessed to overseeing one of the biggest breaches in election security in all of American history. Apparently he thought that we wouldn't remember who was president at the time. But I do, and it was him. There is a serious problem with who is allowed to be on those ballots and the funding of campaigns. As far as counting the votes, that is something that we should actually be proud of as Americans, because we have a very secure and very reliable voting system, and his accusations are exaggerated or frivolous or blown out of proportion. Undocumented immigrants are not voting in mass. It's not in the numbers to actually throw any election. And it's interesting to me that he found these ballots were unreliable in terms of just his race, but not all the races that the Republicans won. His speech shows how scared they are. They're looking at the polls. They're looking at the future of their party. This is a dying party. They know their platform is not popular. They know their policies don't help regular people. They have to rely on voter suppression. They have to rely on gerrymandering. And they have to rely on tons of dark money to obfuscate what they actually stand for. The fact that most of them are just glorified lobbyists for oil companies and tech companies and big agriculture conglomerates and multinational corporations that exist to make a handful of people ultra wealthy while exploiting the rest of us for our labor. The Republican Party is acting like a cornered, frightened animal, and they may go down, but they're determined to take democracy with them. And as flawed as our democracy is, it's still much better than the absolute dictatorship that they're gunning for. They're preparing for losses to explain them away by claiming that the elections were fraudulent. What they're going to do when they lose, that's hard to say, but I think January 6th might give us some hints at what they have in mind. I know that the candidates are not great, but voting is important. And it does matter. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying so hard to take our votes away from us. Turning Point USA under Erica Kirk is now talking about having just one vote per family. If that's the plan, why not just have the wife vote for the husband? It doesn't matter after all, because as they claim, couples should vote the same way anyway. So if that's the case, women live longer, so why not have the woman vote and take away votes from men? Makes sense to me. It would encourage men to get married after all, then they'd have a voice, right? Of course, we know that's not what they're going to do. It's just an excuse to suppress women's votes that they can't get any other way. And that's the Republican strategy now, is find any way to cheat, lie, steal, beg for votes because they can't get them otherwise. A reminder that the only right that women have guaranteed in the Constitution is the right to vote. The politics of hatred and fear and cruelty are exhausting and damaging. It is depressing seeing the news every day, making a difference and fielding candidates that are going to stand up to ICE and the corporations and the people killing our planet means something. I know we all feel helpless. It really does make me feel so much better when I know that I'm doing something to fight the system of people who are exploiting the poor for profit, who are locking up so many of us in prison. As scary as all this is, remember why they're so desperate. It's because they don't have a future. And of course, the Democrats have their own crisis because their strategy, at least for the establishment, has been to be the party of anti-Trump. Now, this is not a very effective strategy. It's reactionary, and what do when there's no more Trump to fight? It doesn't drive voter turnout, and it doesn't inspire anyone, especially young people. Being the party of lesser evil is not what gets people to the polls. Progressive policies that benefit their constituents does. But of course they're not going to do that, because to do that, they'd have to piss off their corporate donors. They'd have to move to the left, which is what they're not willing to do. Their strategy has always been to appeal to the moderate Republicans and just expecting the left and marginalized groups just to vote for them, because what other choice do they have? Well, they do have the third party choice, but they say that's throwing their vote away. And it is Schrodinger's leftist, where we are so powerful that we ruin every election for them because people are voting third party and they believe they are owed all those votes. Yet at the same time, we are so worthless and small that they have no reason to cater to us as a voting bloc. Which, granted, I am not saying that I want to drag the Democratic Party to the left or that's what we should do. I'm just saying that their arguments for why they can't take any steps to the left are absurd. The Socialist Party platform and our statement of principles are popular amongst most Americans because they actually look to solve a lot of the problems caused by capitalism. Now, granted, our ultimate goal isn't just to reform capitalism, but a lot of the problems that we face are solvable. We do have enough money for healthcare, education, and childcare, and food assistance. These are things we could easily fund, except the powers that be would rather fund tax breaks for the wealthy and cut entitlements and create austerity. And austerity widens the wealth gap. That's what capitalism does. It concentrates wealth into the hands of the few. And progressive candidates are generally very popular. One takeaway from the whole thing with Graham Plattner is how much people were willing to forgive just because they liked his policies. It was absurd. I honestly don't know why so many people took him at face value, but it seems to me that people are just so desperate for a politician that they can actually support. And one thing that Mamdani does well is he does have policies that help regular people, and he broadcasts it. Now, the problem with Mamdani is, first of all, it is about reforming capitalism. It is not about actually doing anything that puts power in the hands of working people. He is a Democrat. He is ultimately not anti-capitalist. He might do things to reform capitalism, like rent control, but he's still doing the homelessness sweeps. And de Blasio did some kind of rent control, if I'm not mistaken, or some kind of rent freeze, at least. There's not going to be any change in power. If a socialist mayor was in power and the landlord said, we can't afford to maintain these buildings, personally, I would say, that's awesome. I'm going to cut you a break. The city will buy that property from you. But likely what they're saying is it's going to cut into their profit margins. Expense you don't have to worry about when you're not running the building for profit, when either the city is running it, which might be a good idea if it truly is in a horrible state of disrepair, because you don't want to put that on residents, and you might have to raise some money in order to fix it up. But once it's ready to go, that's when you turn it into a housing co-op, where the people themselves, the tenants themselves, own the building, and their rent does go just for property taxes and maintenance and repairs and renovations and even improvements if they want, and they democratically control that. That would be socialism, putting the power back in the hands of the people. It's economic democracy. And although Mamdani has tough words for Netanyahu, which I appreciate, and that is important, he is still complicit in holding Maduro prisoner. He is a democratically elected leader of a sovereign nation. Now, whatever criticisms you have of Venezuela, it doesn't mean that America can go in and kidnap their leader and hold them hostage. No matter what you think of Maduro, he's nowhere near where the Saudis are or where any number of U.S. allies are in their level of corruption and violence. We can be critical of foreign nations, but we know that U.S. intervention does not help anything because we're not there to help. We're not there because we care about democracy or human rights. We're there because of imperialism, because we spend so much on our military, and that does not go to veterans. It goes to private companies and corporate profits. Here is what I'm hopeful about. The working class has never been emancipated by the goodwill of politicians. It's always been the blood, sweat, sacrifice, and tears of workers through strikes and direct action and organized resistance that has meant change that benefits people like us. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't vote or elections don't matter, but our politicians are not going to change on their own. You see how the Democrats and the Republicans are struggling to find a platform that is relevant, that can achieve their goals, whether it's through neoliberalism or the establishment of their own brand of Christo-fascism. But the Socialist Party and the far left does not struggle with our purpose or relevance to the country. Our ideas are popular. Our solutions are practical. The colossal failures of the government under capitalism are unmistakable. We offer real change, actual alternatives to the status quo. We offer something no capitalist party will ever be able to match. We need to build leadership that all marginalized groups can trust, because they have been exploited by the Democrats for so long, told that they have to vote for the Democrats because who else is going to support them? The current status quo offers nothing but crisis after crisis, wealth inequality, injustice. It fosters bigotry. It relies on patriarchy and white supremacy and scaring people into voting against their own interests. We need something that can unite all the victims of capitalism and help all marginalized people to build a truly egalitarian future. We don't want more diverse oppressors. We want true liberation. Liberal feminism and the anti-racism of the Democratic Party that leaves the racist system of policing and incarceration intact does not offer true liberation. Capitalism has no future. We need economic democracy. We need socialism. Last weekend was the Socialist Party Organizing Conference, and I really appreciate the North Carolina State Organization for putting that together. And I think it's important to meet in person when you can, is because I have so many good memories about my time in the party, especially at meetings and conventions and conferences. I've learned so much and met so many great people, and I understand not everyone can travel. I personally can't afford to travel either. I actually sold a bunch of stuff just to afford it, but it was absolutely the highlight of my year so far. Although I missed my flight, so I actually didn't get to go to the entire thing, which I'm really, really sad about, because I didn't get to do as much socializing as I wanted to. but it still was a great experience. If you do want to do something to make me smile on my birthday, please consider donating to the Socialist Party USA. We could really use the money, and we have a big fight ahead of us. Thank you as always for listening. I don't get paid to do this. Almost all of us are volunteers that work full-time. If you agree with our principles, please consider joining and getting active.